I'm going to be going over your 2D and 3D analysis. What we're looking for, what we refer to as hitting inhibitors. These inhibitors can impact your power, your contact, and your efficiency. I'll be looking at 12 characteristics today. And so first we start off with evaluating for a sway. And what we do for a sway is we draw a line on your outside foot, 90 degrees or so. And we do want a negative move, which is any move away from the pitcher, but we don't want that knee to cross that line. My camera moves ever so slightly, but I would say you do not have a sway and you have a good negative move. The next thing we look for is loss of posture. So we want you in an attacking position as you go from that negative move, so that move away from the pitcher to heel plant, all right? And when I say attacking posture, what we're going to do is get you in that negative move. And what I'm going to do is draw a line from your right eye down to your waist. And so you see there's a forward lean there. I'm going to take you to the toe touch position, which is, we'll say here. And we still want you to have a bit of a forward lean. And you can see here, there's a little slight tilt the other way. And then at heel plant, we want you tilting away from the pitcher. So you can see when you get to toe touch, you're still not in that attacking position. So we would say there's a loss of posture there. And that likely is a technique issue and not a physical cause. The next thing we look for is what we call dead hands. So we take this negative move to toe touch. And what we would like to see with the hands is a separation of the hands away from the neck. So you actually have a good starting position with your hands, but we would actually want the hands to extend out going that way. But there is no movement, and this move is important because you're creating an elastic stretch, which actually generates power. So that is what we refer to as dead hands. And looking at your physical screen, you were a little tight on your shoulders, and so this may be a reason to why you're not doing that move, more so than technique. But with the shoulder corrective exercises, we should see an improvement in your shoulder range of motion. Next thing we look for is loss of base. So I'm going to take you to the toe touch position. We'll say here. So that's heel plant. We'll call you toe touch here. And what we would like to see is your back heel down. And we don't want to see that knee pointing forward. And again, it's a little tricky on where we consider true toe touch. You know, do we call it here? If we call it here, your knee is facing the camera. We have you go a little further, starting to move out, but I would still say it's facing the camera. Once we get to heel plant, it's not facing the camera. It's at a good angle, but this angle, it's still facing the camera. So really, when you make that toe touch, we want your knee in the same position as it is on heel plant. All right. So we're going to say loss of base on this particular one. Other thing we look for to see if you're hanging back. So what we do here is draw a line just on that outside foot up 90 degrees. We have you go through the negative move through contact. So again, negative move through contact. And what we would like is we don't want that heel to go behind that line. And so you're okay. So that means you're getting a decent weight shift. All right, even though there's a little bit on the line, overall, you're getting a good weight shift. The next thing I look for is what we refer to as gate swing. So I take it to the toe touch position. And then I follow you all the way through extension. And what we're doing is watching that elbow there. And we want to make sure it doesn't get stuck on the hip and it continues to follow past the hip. So we get you here on the hip. And does that elbow start to move in front of the hip? And I would say it does. Maybe like 1, 2 frames, it's there, but then 3, 4, and typically if it's there like 2, 3 frames, definitely 3 frames, we call it a gate swing. So I'm gonna say 1, 2, 1, 2. So once the hands out in front of the shoulder there, 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to say no gate swing on that. I'm going to say you're getting decent motion of the arms. A little close, but I'll give it to you this time. Next thing we look at is toe touch position. And what I want to see is that elbow outside of the hands at this point? So here what we should see are the elbow and the hands aligned in a straight up and down position. Because when you're doing that, it results in what we refer to as a push. So you're pushing the bat through. And you can even see here, the elbow is behind rather than whipping it through. All right. And so you kind of want to get a sensation that you're pulling the bat through. And that helps with efficiency. It helps with contact. So I'm going to say you have a flying elbow and you're also doing a push. All right. We also look forward to see if you're dumping the barrel. So again, we take it to that toe touch position, and basically here, we want the hands, I guess you can say, behind the barrel. So you're good. And then we go see if you have a good weight shift on the front side. So we take it to the heel plant position, draw a line straight up and down, and then we pass you all the way through, and you're doing great there. In golf, we'll call it a slide. In softball, we call it drifting. So no evidence of drifting at that standpoint. Okay. And then on the videos, where are you at? Where are you at? What am I doing? We're going to go to the rear view. Zooming in. And so one thing we look for is loss of space as well as casting of the hands. All right, so in loss of space, we're going to take it to the positive move. And what I'm going to do is draw a line here, kind of from your glutes down 90 degrees. And what we want you to do is we don't want you to come off that line during the swing. And you can see here, you come off that line. There's space in between that line. And when you do that, you leave less space for your hands to whip through and swing through, and that can impact the contact on your ball, as well as your swing efficiency. The other thing we look for is casting of the hands. And so I take it to the toe touch position. And then the key thing we want to see is that lead hand inside the elbow. So lead hand inside the elbow, and you can see here your elbow is inside the lead hand, elbow inside the lead hand, elbow inside the lead hand. And so you are throwing your hands out in front. And this goes back to the flying elbow piece and the pushing piece. So this actually, it could be related to a little bit of your shoulder tightness. It could be related to the technique. And so it's impacting your hands on the swing. Next thing I'll do is jump to the 3D analysis. And so here, and particularly what we're looking for is your X factor and your kinematic sequence. Let me zoom this in. And so your X factor is that separation between your pelvis and your shoulders. And we don't have much separation between your pelvis and the shoulders. So at the lowest, I'm going to say it's 13 degrees. And then when we get to that highest point of separation, 6 degrees. And what number is higher or lower, it doesn't matter. It's just the difference. And so we only get about a 10-degree X factor, that separation between your pelvis and your shoulders. Ideally, we want 25 to 35. And when you get that shoulder separation, we talk about the X factor, you'll hear me talk a lot about coil, meaning separation of your upper body from your lower body. There's a optimal range of coil to get that generates power that translates to solid contact and solid power on the ball. So this little blip here needs to be more. Even though we see it afterward the fact, you've already hit the ball. And so we want to see that during your backswing, while you're winding up, and then as you get to contact. And so a goal of ours would be to improve your pelvic and thoracic separation. Looking at your physical screen, we do need to work on your pelvis. And actually on your thoracic rotation, you did have some limitation of your thoracic rotation. So the corrective exercises will be great for you, and I think over time we'll be able to increase that X factor for you. The other piece we look for is your sequencing, what we call the kinematic sequence. So you can see here, the orange is your pelvis, the green is your shoulder/thorax, and then the lead arm, or you can also say your bat. So ideally what we would like to see is your pelvis go first, your shoulder, and then your lead arm/bat. But as you can see here, the bottom trough, or the peak, is your lead arm. So your lead arm is leading the way, followed by your pelvis, and then followed by your shoulder. So the good thing here is that you're not completely out of sequence, meaning that the trunk is following the pelvis, but your lead arm is getting way out ahead. And even though your velocity levels are off too. So the lowest should be the pelvis in the orange, the next should be the shoulder, and then the next should be the lead arm. So you're firing first with your lead arm, then your hips are kind of joining in, and then to kind of make up for it, your upper body and shoulder are trying to generate some power. And again, this also goes back to the X factor piece. It's just we're not generating a lot of power in our lower body to transfer to our upper body. So this is a sequencing issue, and I think, again, if we can address pelvic rotation, your thoracic rotation, improving your flexibility, improving your mobility, we'll start to see some big changes. Thank you again, and I look forward to talking to you more about the findings we had today. Have a good one.